Welcome to the Offshore Marketer Show, live from Mauritius. A podcast where we share the best strategies to launch, grow, or scale an online business. Subscribe to the show so you find out how top brands, marketers, and entrepreneurs dominate their market. If you want to learn more, head over to offshoremarketer.com. And now, introducing your host, Fabio Bull.
So welcome back, everyone, back to the show. My name is Fabio, and today I'm going to speak to James Briscall, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, who is actually a sales strategist, and he wants to talk to us about the importance of actually a client avatar. James, welcome to the show. I am very happy for you to come onto the show as our first guest. And perhaps you can just introduce yourself a bit more to our listeners. And tell us a bit more about yourself, really.
Sure. So my name's James Briscall. I'm blessed to live in the South Island of New Zealand. I'm actually an English expat, so I moved here about 15 years ago from Kent, which is the southeast corner, just opposite France. So I did visit France a few times during my childhood. And I'm a dad. I love outdoor pursuits, playing around in the playground of the outdoors here. But obviously, the reason why we're on the call is I call myself a sales strategist, and really, so my first mentor was in marketing. So I learned a lot about marketing and writing copy and avatars and coaching. I then moved into sales because, like a lot of people within the coaching community, I wasn't any good at sales personally. I was really bad at sales, so I found myself a sales mentor. And since then, I've done hundreds of sales calls, and I call myself a sales strategist, as with the marketing background too, I can actually hear what is going on in the marketing by the way people are speaking, or the way they're turning up, or the way they're not turning up on the sales call. So I work with business owners who have an online offer to optimize their sales strategy. So what I hear on the call, I can then relate back to when the lead comes into the funnel. And as we're going to talk about that sort of client journey, hence the sales strategist.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. I think we'll get a bit more as we go along, And I think, the goal of this year, for at least for the show, is to go through this journey of understanding from how you can actually start a business from A to Z. And obviously, all this starts with building up your client's avatar and actually understanding who you're going to speak to before actually starting to go there and starting launching your business and spending money on ads and whatever. So, James, you describe yourself as, let's say, a sales strategist again. But the question really is, what is it? What is an avatar? What's a client avatar per se?
Well, again, it's a phrase I picked up from my original mentor, Evan Pagan. It's really your perfect customer, your ideal client. So it's the person who you want to speak to through your marketing.
And so
it's the person. Sorry, yes.
So, so if it's the person that you only want to speak to, then it becomes your ideal client, your perfect client, something that perhaps you would only want to deal with, and you wouldn't want to deal, as I say, clients from hell, And so these we can say perhaps are clients from heaven, let's say, in a sense.
Absolutely, because ultimately, to use that phrase, clients from hell, whatever issues they have on a sales call, and there's a whole conversation about why people enroll their clients from hell. And I know that this is an honest conversation. So some business owners might be desperate to enroll a client.
Sure.
Financially, reputation-wise, and so they kind of know that issues are already popping up on the sales call.
Mm-hmm.
There might be financial issues. They might be really picky about things. They might, you might have the sense that they're actually uncoachable. So there are all these issues.
Right.
Conversely, you might not have the experience to know that they aren't the ideal client.
Sure.
And what happens is one, there is either buyer's remorse and they try to cancel. A lot of business owners now have a cancellation clause after 30 days, but you have had to have gone through X amount of the program or fulfilled a few criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is all of that issue, and going back through Stripe or whatever the payment system was. But if the client from hell continues through that, they're never going to get the results. Such a tiny percentage of them will ever get the results which they're truly capable of, or which your perfect client would be truly capable of, and what you yourself as a business owner are capable of delivering. And obviously, the most important thing, as we know, Fabio, within the online world is trust and reputation.
Yeah.
And really, bad clients that they can wreak havoc with someone's reputation, even if that business owner has the best intentions. So, for me, it's really super critical to have those ideal clients coming through.
Yeah, and it just saves a lot of. Again, as you said, sometimes people do it out of desperation. They need the income. They just don't have a choice, and that's the way it is. But I guess most of the time it's just because they just don't compile probably their sales funnels or design it correctly. So therefore, you're starting to speak to people that are actually not the ones that you should be speaking with, and then they realize, oh, actually, hate it's a big word, but I would say I don't like to deal with my clients.
A strong word.
So I mean,
and then the client feels it too. So then it's sort of a bit of a vicious circle. It sort of goes round and round and round.
Yeah. So I mean, in the end, why do you think it's probably really important to have a really clear vision and a good picture of an avatar, really?
Absolutely. So the importance is really the essence of marketing, and I see marketing as a flow into sales. There's a thing, sales, marketing, the sales calls are going rubbish, the prospects aren't any good because the marketing's not doing their job,
right?
And then the marketing's going, no, we're sending through heaps of prospects, and it's a sales team. So there can be this little bit of antagonism, right? But I like to see it as when the lead is acquired. So it comes through, they click yes, they join an email list, that they do something, right? And they go from being someone who has a problem, who is surfing around trying to find a solution to their problem. And then they come in through the entrance of the funnel and they click, right? The moment that lead comes in, for me, that is where their journey starts, which progresses towards the sales call. And then ultimately, it might not be a one-call close. It might be a 2 or 3 calls. Obviously, at enterprise level, it can take months and months and months, right? With multiple follow-ups. So that is so important to build the trust, to build the authority, within that journey, within that stage, and ultimately, obviously, that stage involves the tech platforms, the notification sequences leading up to a sale, and the follow-up sequences. But actually, if you've got the wrong client at the beginning of it, it is only going to kind of exaggerate
Yeah.
what
Yeah, I see what you
the
mean.
original issue is.
Yeah.
So that is why the importance is of getting as close as you can to who you would consider or the business would consider their perfect client.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. So, I mean, if in your position and based on your experience on perhaps designing, having in mind, what would be your first step on, let's say, a business owner has already
Sure.
perhaps 2-year-old business, is probably doing maybe these mistakes, so he has no idea what he's actually doing, and what would be then the first step actually to fix all these different issues? Coming back to creating your avatar.
Yeah. Um, I have heard a lot. Like I was speaking to a business owner 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, and I always ask people, "Who is your perfect client?"
Mm.
And I have to say, 85, 90% of the time, it's fairly generic. And then this person who I was speaking to, her answer was anyone who breathes.
Okay.
And 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 they sort of justified it. And for me, it's again. So the first step is having the mindset to know that having an avatar is not reducing yourself. So the comment of anyone who breathes, it's almost like, hey, I can do X, Y, Z to anyone in the world. Like I can help anyone support. They were probably talking about the Western world, right? And so so with that mindset, you have the feeling that the world's your oyster,
Mm.
right? And so you can basically help anyone and to do anything. People don't a lot of so the first thing's the mindset of what I when I think about the answer of anyone who breathes, it's almost like going out onto a stage at a big, I don't know, like a big sporting venue in the States, right?
Right.
50,000 people or how many people say there is, hey, I can help you all. And I think that a lot of business owners think that if they work on a specific avatar, it's sort of like walking down a corridor. And it's just sort of like, maybe I'm not going to see anyone down this corridor, or maybe I'll just meet one or two people, right? And then I really have to enroll them. Now, I see it completely differently. What I see is you're walking down a corridor and then you open the door, which you consider to be your door. Maybe it's the red door. And then you walk through the door and there's a room full of people who want to speak to you.
Yeah, I see.
So rather than standing up on stage and proclaiming to 50,000 people and having to wade through X number of thousands to meet your 10 clients or however many you want for that particular year, you actually you open, say, your red door, you'll go through and there's 50 people there going, James, Fabio, so lovely. I've heard so much about you. I love your content. I really feel that I would like to explore the opportunity of seeing how we could work together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you work with those, and then you have the sales conversation with those 50 people. So that's really the first step, is the mindset of that it isn't a reduction. It's actually you go through them narrow, but then it opens out again.
Yeah. 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 Go ahead. Sorry. No. Go ahead.
No.
No, I was just saying
No,
that
we can talk about that.
I was just kind of like saying, taking that example, if you actually use also, because that's when the copy itself and the copywriting itself by understanding who you're speaking to and narrowing that, like let's say funnel in a sense, not the sales funnels, but the actual narrowing the view. You are
The
able,
acquisition, really. Yeah,
yeah, you're able to specifically attract people that have pain points, situational, uh,
absolutely.
and then from there you're actually speaking so much better to those individuals as opposed to say, hey, I'm here to help you, I'm here to help everyone,
Yeah.
and then you probably end up paying $20 per click because you're if you're
Yeah.
doing an ad, that's probably gonna maybe $100. I
PPC.
don't know, I don't
Yeah.
even know,
Yeah.
and I'm not an ad expert at all,
Yeah.
but that's my view
No,
kind of what
no,
I've
no,
seen.
no.
So yeah, so you're saying that a lot of the business
So
owners that you've been speaking to, they have this kind of I'd say worry that if they start to narrow down, they'll lose a lot of business. Is that what you're trying to come across? Yeah.
yeah, one is the worry, and two, it's how to facilitate how to find an avatar, right? Because it takes work and it takes time, and it's often easier to say I work with XYZ and they're 25 to 50 and they earn 100K, and that's my perfect client. Obviously, that's improvement from anyone who agrees.
Sure.
But to really, the way to find it is marketing, in essence, as you know, is the right message to the right people at the right time on the right platform.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
And so the importance of that is the right message to the right people, which you're absolutely right. That's where the copy comes in. So what is step two? Step two is who who lights my fire? Um, who has the pain point which my XYZ product or service
Can resolve.
can solve? So let's suppose that someone's a business coach, right,
Mhm.
or a consultant of some type. Um, what I like to do is people go into the demographics and the psychographics. So there's a whole genre of finding your avatar by male or female, age, what type of house they live in, what type of job they do, the car they drive, their family situation, the platforms, the online platforms or forums, the magazines they read, the restaurants they go to, and that was a very well established way. And to be honest, that is kind of like a first step because it actually begins to because ultimately, Fabio, as far as the copy goes, and as far as that whole client's journey goes, you want to be able to reach a stage where you know this avatar. So a really important thing is by beginning to put those basic things in place, then you can actually give that avatar a name. Now
Right.
it might sound a bit weird, but by giving their avatar a name, then they become a person. So Joe, 35 to 50, maybe second marriage, two older teenage kids, a couple younger children, wife works in PR or spouse works in a PR. Maybe they live in a certain suburb in maybe California or a certain type of suburb. Uh, House price point 500 to 750K. So you can then begin to actually see them, right? And then you add a name: Joe, Earl, Frank, and they become a person. So again, the very first step is to go from, hey, yeah, I don't know who I can speak to anyone, to begin to narrow it down.
And so first step is to, as you said, is to go through demographics and
Yeah, yeah.
and kind of like at least know what kind of person it is, and then what was the second step you're saying that you'd go through? Is it to actually see what perhaps any type of pain points that your product can?
Well, then, so the first point's the mindset. The second point's the demographics,
Okay.
and that begins to paint a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really the external picture, right?
Right.
So that is so you would get a picture of this business of the client in your head, so to speak, and you can begin to write a few things down.
Right.
So that's really the first step. So imagine that you've cut that 50,000 people stadium down to like 20,000 now, right, or like 10,000.
Yeah.
And then the next step is the psychographics, and that's really a much deeper journey, and I don't delve too deeply, but it's really important. So here's the one thing which I always think about for my avatar, my perfect client, and I call it the 2 a.m. voice.
The 2 a.m. voice. Okay.
So
What is this?
the
Okay,
2
very
a.m.
interesting.
voice,
All right.
right?
Cool.
So point 3 is the 2 a.m. voice. So the 2 a.m. voice is when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have this voice speaking to you in your head, and we've all been there, right? And the voice is saying irrational things. I'm running out of money.
Ah.
My health is going downhill because I've smoked for all these years, or I really don't know what this pain is, and maybe I'm going to have a heart attack because I'm carrying an extra 100 pounds, or maybe my spouse doesn't love me anymore because I'm not bringing the money in, and that irrational voice.
Right.
Now, I've had it. Everyone I've spoken to has had it, and I'm sure that you have had it too.
Yeah.
It's the voice. It's the 2 a.m. voice, right?
So okay. So that's really interesting. Actually, that's like almost like deep pain for that person itself, and then
It is.
and
It is really deep pain, and the thing is that it just makes the psychographics so much easier because we aren't psychologists, and although it's very helpful to know a little bit about personalities and human behavior, we can all relate to that voice. A lot of us actually run a business or run a coaching business which is related to our journey.
Mhm.
So a lot of us can actually relate to our perfect client in some way.
true. Yeah.
Whether or not it was us at some stage, or whether because we've been in the business for so long and we've talked to a lot of clients, but we can often relate to them, right?
Yeah.
So the 2 a.m. voice is something which most of us can relate to the person who we actually our business would most like to serve.
Very interesting. Yeah. I can see. I can definitely see it, at least myself, because
Yeah.
in the end, I mean, and I'll just come back to you said this. I think this business owner that said anyone that reads can be my client, and I thought, okay, maybe he's like in the sort of pharmaceuticals, that everyone has reading problems.
Almost,
Okay,
yeah.
I mean that'll probably be more acceptable. As an example, my daughter, sometimes she's like 2 years old or something. She tends to suffer from bronchitis, whatever. I would probably be his perfect client if he had some sort of solution there. But now it's much clearer for me to understand what it actually mean, and I think it takes actually a lot of work, if you think about it. But once the work is done, it just
does.
clears a lot of the
It
dust
does.
in the end. And from my experience with that, and sorry, you're going to say something, but I just want to finish. Is that these things can also probably change, right? Things can actually continuously be evolved, and you can just continuously add more things that you didn't think before. Probably using your terminology of 2 a.m., you wake up 2 a.m. and saying, "Oh, actually, I never thought about this. This actually could be one of my fears or one of the things that people came across with my product that I've not thought about. So it's a very interesting concept, I must say.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. It does take work, and that's sort of one of the earlier points I mentioned. You either don't realise, or it's sort of a desperate or fair thing that you want to speak to anyone and everyone, or you just don't want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely right. It does. It takes time to evolve your perfect client, your avatar, to hone them. But it is a body of work, and it's a bit like wanting a beach body, and not expecting to put 3 times a week for 3 months in the gym. But then the result comes, but it's just like a lot of work, and and so really the power of this point of the 2am voice is that I'm sure you've experienced this too, and I certainly have. You drift back to sleep, maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock, and then you wake up at 7 o'clock. Ah, it's a brand new day. Great. Grab a coffee, off you go. Family stuff, business starts.
Yeah.
And the fears which are going around your head at 2 a.m. Are sort of are temporarily forgotten about.
Yeah.
So the thing with the copy and the communication is that those fears are generally irrational. They're exaggerated fears. You're probably not gonna have a heart attack. You just need to go on a fitness program. Your spouse is probably not going to leave you because you're carrying a bit of extra weight, but I mean, you're probably not going to go broke today. I mean, so often the 2am voice is an irrational voice. And when, from a behavior point of view, when we're in that irrational mindset, it's very hard to think straight, which is why at 2 a.m. we sort of lie there and it goes round and round, and it takes us a while to get back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely right. That is the pain point or the challenge. So by delving into that, because as I say, we normally know, I can go into how if you don't know, but generally we sort of know who our perfect client is, right? So we have an idea about this. And so there's a saying that if you can provide a solution to the problem and speak to that problem clearer and more accurately than the person can, then they will come to you for a solution. So if you can talk to someone about their 2 a.m. problem better than they can really verbalize it and then provide a solution, it's sort of like a jigsaw. And that's when the magic happens, and that's where the power of this work to create the perfect client really comes from.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, it's fun. I really like your 2 a.m. Let's say terminology. I guess that's really the word.
Yeah.
And so, James, can we have? I mean, when we're creating an avatar, should we have one avatar? Should we have 2, 3? I mean, is there a specific I won't say rule, but perhaps a way that we can start or we can develop the business? Because as you said, these clients or the person you mentioned, he was afraid of like narrowing it down, but at some point you can actually open up. So my question really is, can we have, after maybe have 1, can we have 2, can we have 3, can we serve more than one specific avatar?
Sure. I mean, I consider it that we can have a few doors down that corridor, so we can certainly have more than one if we're able to, and that's a great point to delve into. So let's say that that I'm a fitness coach, right?
Right.
Okay, and then I work in a certain gym, and originally I say I can help anyone get fitter. Anyone over the age of 20, I can do some basic fitness and they can get the fitness back. And like anyone, Fabio, I'm just brilliant at my fitness, right? Now, let's say that they go down this path of trying to find their avatar, their perfect client. And let's say that they say that they really, and really the reason for this work is to create the copy, maybe
Hmm.
hone the offer, create the title of the offer, and even the colors, so everything can relate to their challenge, right? And how
Right.
to speak to them, because obviously, like a divorced man of 60 is going to be a very, very different person to talk to, as uh, for the linguistics, for the copy, for the colors, as say a happily married mum of say 25, right? So that's why everything comes from this work. But let's say that I'm a fitness coach. But so taking that example there, I could write an avatar for postmenopausal ladies,
Hmm.
and that would be a great client. You could do some great work. You could really help these women like step into their new selves, uh, and create a lot of fitness and create a great body, and really to give them the confidence to kind of stride out, right, and do whatever they have to do. Now that could be honed down to single or mums with teenage children who have left the nest, or early divorcees. Like you could subdivide that. But let's say that you have your perfect client there. That's absolutely great. And then the copy speaks to them, the funnel speaks to them. They come on the sales call, and that is just fantastic. And that funnel's working really, really well. Now that doesn't mean to say that you can't help um, 30 to or 25 to 35-year-old men who are looking to lose, or skinny men, a bit like me, who are looking to put on 5K of muscle. That doesn't mean to say that you can't help them. So what you can do is go through the same process. If you know that you can help them, you can create a slightly different program, a slightly different offer. You speak to their mindset, and you can probably imagine that the 2 a.m. voice of a skinny guy in his late 20s is probably very different to a lady who is sort of 55. But their
Absolutely.
pain points are still perhaps lack of self worth, lack of
Mm.
confidence. Maybe they're single, and maybe they feel that their body type or their lack of something or too much of something is holding them back, right? But you can speak to that 25 to 35 black man, white man, tech guy, hospo, like whoever you want to speak to, and then you can speak to them. And the reason now, you don't necessarily hypothetically have to have a vastly different program. It might be vastly different, but the importance is that you are having the clients coming through that journey and speaking to them on the sales call, and then they are the great client for that program.
Right. Okay. So I mean, that's truly very very interesting, and thank you for that. Really, and so how is it then? How is it? I think you've touched really on the actual client's journey using a client avatar, and how important it actually is. And so, if we compare that in having a good client avatar that will you provide the all sales copy and then the sales call and then let's say the follow-ups, either if it's automated or not, how can I actually affect revenue wise to a company or service provider that that has a clear avatar versus those that
Mm,
really are selling to everyone that reads, you know?
sure, sure. It's how can I relate this? It's, I guess, a bit. It comes down to the price point of our offer, right? So let's say, and as you could probably pick up, I love to use analogies and stories and
Sure.
things. So let's say that I sell ice cream, right? And the ice cream variety, which is sort of equivalent to anyone who breathes, is say vanilla.
Okay.
And let's say that it's a normal carton, and I see it in the supermarket, and most people generally can eat, whether or not it's their favorite one, but they can eat vanilla, right? Now, obviously, it can be made with vanilla pods and it can be organic, but essentially, it is just vanilla, right?
Right.
So ultimately, it is just going to be have a certain price point, a ceiling where when very few people are going to want to pay above that for just a tub of vanilla ice cream, right? Fine. That is for anyone, for everyone. Very, 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 very common. But let's say a tub will never be more than $5 or €5, right? Okay. Then on the other side of the coin, you are an Italian gelato
Right.
producer. You have a kiosk perhaps, or a wonderful little shop. The theme really speaks to the people who you like to serve. You've done a lot of research about your perfect client or the clients. You've got some fantastic flavors. I don't know, almonds and mint and all these amazing flavors, right? Well, you can probably sell a small cone of ice cream for say $7, as opposed to a big tub of vanilla ice cream for sort of $5, right?
I've seen that in
That is
person. I've seen that in person, so I know
absolutely
exactly what you
so
mean.
high.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. Anyway,
Absolutely, and it sort of applies to cars as well, right? I mean, cars or like suits or watches, it applies across the board to everything. So let's come back to say the fitness coach, right? And let's say that they coach anyone and everyone. Every client's slightly different, right? So you can't really get into like you've one person who wants to lose weight, one person who wants to run a marathon, and one person who wants to swim across swim, and then one person just wants to catch up with their toddler. It's like all you're ever going to do is be that tub of vanilla ice cream, basically. But let's suppose that you have spoken to this skinny guy. He's a tech guy. He earns 75K a year. You know the sort of apartment he lives in. He works really long hours and he hasn't had a date for 18 months. Maybe he's addicted to a porn. Like there's all kinds of stuff, right? And his 2 a.m. voice, he is suffering. Like he is absolutely suffering. Like at work, he's a high performer. He's a tech genius, right? I'm just making this sort
sure.
of
I mean,
avatar up.
but there
But
must be someone around there like that, eh?
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely, absolutely. But behind closed doors, he is just suffering because he's a lovely guy, right? And he feels that it is very hard. And from a coaching perspective, it is really hard for people to feel successful if one part of their life is very incomplete. So that could be the health, it could be their relationships, it could be their finances, but it's really, really hard. However successful you are in one area, and we've seen it so many times with sort of celebrities or sports stars who earn a lot of money, but then part of their life just sort of falls apart, right?
yeah.
So it's like if you can speak to that person and you can provide them, and during that client's journey, you provide content and you really give heaps of value, right? Heaps of value. So they know, yes, Fabio, the sports coach, is going to give me within 3 months, I can build up 5K of the muscle. And then during the sales call, you've taken that person through not just their challenges, but their dreams and aspirations. Right? So you've provided a platform for them to begin to expose their 2 a.m. voice, and really to be able to see that how much longer do you want to be that single guy who just comes back at 8 o'clock at night, shuts the apartment door, goes to work at 7 o'clock, and just has no other life? Like how much longer? It was great for the first 8 months because you were fitted in the new job, but the last year's been so painful for you, sort of emotionally, lack of self-worth, right? And like all this stuff. Well, what do you think the price point could be on that program to transform that avatar's life?
Yeah, because you're changing someone's life completely, and
Exactly.
even if it's as perceived value, there's still value for the actual person, because you are actually changing something in their life, and then ultimately they kind of become almost clients for life, and real fans
Absolutely.
of your service, of your work, of who you are, because you truly transformed. And that's, for me, that's truly what's the being an entrepreneur and doing these things, because that's where we can change and start changing the world with what we do, and what we can do, at least.
Absolutely.
And a thought
Absolutely.
just crossed my mind, is that, what if could we, in your opinion, create, so obviously in traffic, now when I'm saying traffic, it's internet traffic, you have sometimes to deal with different types of traffic, right? And the most common ones are the ones that, let's say, just say hot, warm, and cold. Meaning hot, they actually know what you do, they know your products. Warm, they kind of know what they have a problem. And cold, they actually don't even know if there's a problem. They don't even probably understand they have a problem, and kind of like they don't even know if there's a solution out there. Would you also think that we can create a avatar for each part of this journey when creating, let's say, a marketing campaign? Or would that be too much in the specific? And my question is probably, let's say I'm starting it now. Should I create at some point 3 of them, or just like, okay, I'm just gonna project my message of being, I'm doing this right now, one avatar, and that's it, and wait it until actually this, perhaps the funnel works, and then implement it at some point, instead of going to a different type of person, try to, within that avatar, expand to more cold traffic?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, great question. Um, there we go. So from a sales perspective, it's always to get best to have the hottest traffic one can. So, I mean, there's a number of reasons, and a couple of those we've already spoken about the imperfect client or like a cut or a cut. The other way is that on the other side of the coin, it is also about the number of no-shows. So those are the people who click, they see something, they click, they're bored, they're desperate, maybe they're surfing the net at 2 a.m. They have a problem, but they really don't know what their problem is, or
Yeah.
they're desperate, right? And they click, and then 7 o'clock comes in the morning, and they're off to work, and they might have booked a call for 5:30, right? And then after work, Joe says to Fred, "Hey, do you want to come down and play pool for an hour?" Yeah, sure. Yeah. And their problem is like forgotten about because there's a couple of bottles of beer, a few games of pool. It's 9 o'clock at night, and the 5:30 sales call was completely forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
And so from my perspective, I've just wasted 45 minutes. I then do like a reach out to Joe. Joe's no longer interested now because maybe Fred's had a chat with him and everything seems fine and dandy. And I can't tell you how much time salespeople waste no shows, on trying to follow up people which are cold, which really have no interest, but it was like a desperation click.
Yeah, I know.
So that is the other side of the coin of why it is just so important to have. Uh, um, and I would always try to stick to my best avatar. So I would always try to get continually that perfect client. For sure,
Right,
it
right.
doesn't always work, but at least if we have a gauge, then we aren't trying for warm traffic. But obviously, a bit of warm's going to come through too, because we are all only human. So again, it's more like I would try to probably get two perfect clients and try to get hot traffic from both of them. And just to finish off your question about, hey, well, what should I do to start off with? Um, from my perspective and from what I've learned along my journey, I'd say just get one working really well.
Okay. Well,
And but saying that, as the mighty J. Abraham said, everything is a test.
sure,
So,
sure.
so just because maybe I'm going for the avatar, just maybe it needs further facilitation through me. Maybe I need to talk it through with a colleague, or maybe just the messaging or the platform can be changed slightly. Maybe they actually hang out more on, I don't know, maybe lunch clubs a good place to find them rather than Facebook. I don't know. So as long as you've done at least part of the work, then the details are continually tweaked, and that might take several months. It might take two or three even months, right? But then when that gets finally honed and the system's working and the conversions are up to 25%, 30% plus, right? The sales team is happy, the marketing team. That's the time to go. Hey guys, this offer's working great. The price point's great. The sales girls are having great conversations. I'm changing these people's lives, but I also would like to change these people's lives too. So let's see if we can create a fresh one there.
Perfect. I think that's great. Eh? Thank you for the actual explanation. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think we got quite a lot from James today. Thank you, James, for your time and giving guidance on this specific topic on creating our client avatar. I wanted to know, where can perhaps listeners find you if they want to get in touch with you? What's the best place they can actually get in touch with you, really?
Sure. Well, I've quite an active LinkedIn, so you can find me there, James Briscall,
Okay.
sales strategist, and
Oh,
jrbriscall.com is
okay.
my email. So two very, very simple ways there.
Well, I'll make sure that I'll leave these the details
Thanks so
on the
much.
show notes, and so yeah. So thanks again, James, and hopefully you'll come out again one of these in next coming months with something that you've experienced, learn, and that you can share with our listeners. Okay, have a great one, and
Absolutely,
stay safe.
absolutely pleasure. Bye.
All right,
Absolutely.
man.
Bye for now.
Cheers, James. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye for now.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.